Tetsuo is an ugly, dim-witted biology teacher with an unhealthy amount of interest in demi-humans. One day, he has an encounter with a vampire which led him to meet a snow woman, a succubus, and a Dullahan. Now, he spends his days doing questionable experiments and trying to uncover their hidden abilities. Tetsuo, along with the other teachers, gathers in the faculty room to meet the new teacher. The teacher sitting next to him gets close and asks about how his research on demi-humans is going. He tells him that it is his plan to write a college thesis about it, but being an ordinary high school teacher, he doesn't get permission to interact with them, and because of this, he hasn't interacted with a demi-human till this date. The conversation is interrupted by the arrival of the new teacher. She tells everyone that her train got delayed and goes on to introduce herself. Her name is Seiki, and surprisingly she is a demi-human and a succubus. Hearing the word succubus reminds Tetsuo of his browsing history, but his excitement of seeing a demi-human for the first time overcomes it. Demi-humans who are generally mentioned in folk tales exist in real life, and with time, discrimination towards them becomes less common. Now they live among humans and are treated as equals. In recent times, being a demi-human is seen as another aspect of one's identity. Seiki is busy with her work when Tetsuo suddenly emerges and tries talking to her. She gets scared and backs off a little. Tetsuo tries to shake her hand, but she avoids it. Turns out, the reason is that she avoids interactions with the opposite gender and tries to cover up to avoid provoking any creepy thoughts. Seiki tells him that it isn't respectful to approach her to fulfill his own curiosity and leaves. A few days later, he sees Seiki once again, but she avoids him this time as well. Tetsuo gets depressed thinking that he might not be able to make his fantasies a reality until he hears a student calling for him. Coincidentally, it is the same girl he had seen standing in front of the school late at night. Tetsuo asks her the reason she is standing in front of the school at night, and she tells him that she is trying on her new uniform, and the excitement makes her visit the school even when it is nighttime. Anyway, the reason she calls him is because a student is feeling sick and needs help. He is confident in his abilities until he sees that the student doesn't have a head. There are flames coming out of her neck, and apparently she is a demi-human called Dullahan. As he tries to help her, another demi-human called Snow Woman passes right in front of him. This is surprising since he's never encountered a demi-human, and now he's encountered 3 in a single day. Tetsuo asks Hikari if seeing a demi-human in school isn't unusual for her, and she tells him that she is a demi-human as well, a vampire. After taking care of the Dullahan, Tetsuo tells Hikari that he really likes demi-humans, and Hikari tells him that demi-humans are an outdated word and he should use the word demi instead. A couple of days later, he sees a girl fighting with Hikari. That girl is her twin sister Himari, who unexpectedly isn't a demi. Afterward, Tetsuo asks Hikari to tell him more about vampires, and she agrees on the condition that he will let her hang out in the biology department. On the other hand, Kyoko talks to the other girls about how she used to walk to school as taking the bus is difficult for her, considering she is a Dullahan. However, the girls quickly change the subject so that Kyoko doesn't feel awkward talking about her being a demi. After a while, Hikari comes to Tetsuo's room and tells him that she is more comfortable there as compared to her classroom where the sunlight is very bright. They start talking about vampires, and Hikari debunks all the myths about them, such as how she has no problem with garlic and the cross doesn't scare them. They also can live without blood if they are careful enough and sunlight doesn't burn them away but makes them feel a little sick. She also tells Tetsuo that all the vampires get 1 pack of blood from the government monthly. Tetsuo asks her if she ever desires to drink blood directly from her target, and she confesses how she always wants to drink Snow Woman's blood, as even though her body seems cold, her blood is most probably warm. Tetsuo tells her that the way she describes it seems creepy, and Hikari, in response, tells him that she only thinks about taking blood from girls as it is different if she does it with the opposite gender. The bell rings, and it is now time for the next class. Before leaving, Hikari pranks him by poking 2 pencils on his neck to make it seem like she has bitten him, making Tetsuo almost piss his pants. Hikari then goes to her class where she interacts with Kyoko and tells her that she knows how tough life is for her, as carrying her head separately in her hands seems difficult when commuting or when she has to hold other things. Kyoko is surprised that someone understands her and feels more comfortable talking with Hikari. Before leaving for home, she tells Kyoko about Tetsuo and how he helps her to the nurse's office. Hikari tells her all about Tetsuo, which makes Kyoko write him a letter thanking him and offering an interview with Dullahan. They both go to his office to deliver the letter, and the reply he gives to Kyoko makes her content. The next day, Tetsuo finally had a chance to interview Kyoko. It was unusual for him to talk to someone who was holding her head in her arms. The first thing Tetsuo asked her was if it was safe for him to touch the flames coming out of her body. She told him it was completely safe, and without a second thought, he put his hand into the flames until Kyoko started tearing up, as it was uncomfortable for her to have an old man touching her body. He apologizes and changes the topic, asking her if it is safe if her body and head go separate ways, and she tells him a story about how one time her head and body were as far as Tokyo and Okayama. It happened when her grandparents accidentally forgot to return her head to her body, which was standing inside a train. Later, she tells him about how she lives her daily life. She straps her head while eating and puts her head above the bathtub when bathing, which makes it easier to manage. However, the only thing she still struggles with is interacting with other human beings. Other people are always taken aback seeing her for the first time, and it takes time for them to get comfortable with her. Kyoko tells him how it is hard to even interact with her classmates as they always avoid the topic of Dullahan. And according to her, she would feel much better if instead of avoiding it, they all could joke about it. Tetsuo, being a creep teacher, advises her that it is better if she starts joking about it herself, which might make her classmates feel easier to talk about her Dullahan attributes as they are the ones who aren't sure how to talk about her. He tells her that she is the first Dullahan he has seen as there are only 3 of them in the whole world, which makes Kyoko impressed. She is impressed enough that she asks Tetsuo to give her head a tight hug. Tetsuo, despite being excited about hugging his student, tries to remain calm and hugs her head. She tells him that her parents often used to hug her like that, but they stopped as soon as she grew up. As her head and body are separated, she always craves getting cuddles from someone and hates being lonely. An old man hugging a high school girl seemed very suspicious, and due to this, Tetsuo told her to do this kind of stuff in private. However, the vampire's eyes were sharp as ever. Hikari had been watching them hug for a long time, and as soon as Tetsuo realized he was caught, Hikari teased him by running away and announcing his deeds to the whole school. On their way home, Kyoko told Hikari that she was glad that she got to talk to Tetsuo when suddenly Hikari noticed Yuki and hugged her, but she tried to avoid them and walked away. Hikari told Kyoko that she was shy and that's why she avoided interacting with others. The next day, Kyoko told Hikari that she liked a guy and wanted to go on a date with him. Hikari was surprised to hear about it and asked for all the details. However, Kyoko wasn't very confident in herself and told Hikari that it was hard for her to get a romantic partner, considering she was a Dullahan. Hikari told her that these were all her excuses and tried motivating Kyoko by telling her how she has a massive advantage when it comes to stuff. According to Hikari, Kyoko could do stuff that other girls were not able to, making her a perfect and rare girl. Kyoko told her that the only thing she wanted for him was to hold her head near him as that's where she felt the safest. Hikari was getting bored from all the side talks and asked her who was the boy she liked. Apparently, her crush is the old biology school teacher, Tetsuo. As soon as she hears about it, Hikari calls someone, and the next day, Kyoko finds herself in Tetsuo's arms. Hikari has invited both of them to her house and made them go on a little date while making Tetsuo believe that all this is an experiment. A lonely loser like Tetsuo doesn't question much and goes out with Kyoko's head while her body stays home with Hikari. They both go to a park and sit on a bench, gazing at all the greenery. Kyoko uses her body to thank Hikari by writing it in a notebook. Hikari, being the creep girl she is, makes sure to extract some fun out of their date. She gets on the table and pokes her body, which makes Kyoko's head scream. Onwards, the date goes very smoothly. They walk around town and end up at a cafe. Kyoko tells Tetsuo about Yuki's weird behavior that she has noticed. But as she is discussing it with him, she realizes something is wrong. Turns out she needs to pee as soon as possible. She tells Hikari by writing in the notebook again. After a while, Himari comes home and sees Hikari guiding a headless girl to the restroom, which surely terrifies her for life. Kyoko felt motion sickness before because of how Tetsuo is holding her head, but it is much better now. Tetsuo tells her that he remembers something he learned in school, and it is about how our eyes adjust according to our body automatically. As she doesn't use her neck, and her hands always act like her neck, it is easier to make her feel better by adjusting his hand according to the movement of his body. They go home, and the experiment is a success. The next day, Tetsuo talks to the principal about giving Kyoko permission to bring a backpack to school as it is hard for her to hold her head in the normal regulation bag at the same time. Tetsuo uses all his luck as the succubus notices him talking to the principal, which makes her very happy. Seiki has always lived a different life from the others. She is 24 years old and single, waking up earlier than everyone else. A relationship for her is nearly impossible as she is a succubus. Every time she sees a man, her first thoughts are to avoid him. Even when talking to the principal, she keeps a safe distance. Seiki sees Tetsuo in the school hallway talking to Hikari, who is thanking him for getting Kyoko permission for the bag. Watching him makes Seiki realize that she might have been a little rude to Tetsuo when they met before, but she couldn't help it as she needs to stay away from the opposite gender. After class, a girl comes to Seiki to ask about a math formula but is shocked by her beautiful appearance and suggests that Seiki should dress up more. However, only she knows what would happen to her surroundings if she decides to dress better. A succubus has the ability to evoke creepy thoughts in the opposite gender. and she needs to control herself to avoid this kind of situation. Seiki accidentally bumps into a boy in the hallway, and even a slight bump makes the boy's whole day as it gives him Riz thoughts. Moreover, she has to take the first and the last train to avoid the crowd. On her way home, she dozes off for a second, which ends up giving all the boys on the train wet dreams, making her realize that she can't lose attention even for a second. This is the sole reason she lives in a house far away from other houses. Even though she hates living in isolation, it is her only choice as romantic relationships are way off the charts for her. Even if she decides to wear flashy dresses and walk around the town looking all pretty, the boy she would end up with would only be with her because of her succubus ability, making her wonder if she will ever be able to find a husband. The next day is the same as ever. She follows the same boring routine. However, due to lack of sleep, she almost falls to the ground but is saved by Tetsuo, who holds her hands. Surprisingly, he doesn't have a weird reaction even though he touches her hands, making Seiki wonder if her abilities don't work quite well on people with weak desires, giving her hope that maybe both of them are on equal footing when it comes to romance. At this moment, she is more mistaken than the flat earth believers as Tetsuo barely manages to control himself. Later, he is writing everything he has learned about demi-humans on his laptop when Hikari visits his room. She sees how he is writing about vampires' desires and tells him that she has no problem talking about these kinds of topics. Tetsuo tests her claim and asks her about how a vampire's bloodsucking has an undertone and if it is in the middle of kissing and doing the actual deed. She is beyond embarrassed but tries to hide it and tells him that it depends upon personal preferences. But Tetsuo soon realizes that he is asking his student a creepy question, so out of fear stops. Hikari tries to catch him by surprise as revenge for asking her weird questions by kissing him on his cheek. But it turns out she is the only one who gets embarrassed, and the kiss has zero effect on him. Seiki is helping Kyoko carry a box, and in the reference room, she gets to take a better look at her. She compliments her by telling Seiki that she seems like a mature woman who has a lot of romantic experience. Seiki doesn't have the heart to correct her and goes along with the misunderstanding. Kyoko asks for romantic advice from Seiki and tells her that the guy she likes is Tetsuo. Coincidentally, Seiki has also fallen for the old man. Two boys try to get Yuki to hang out with them, but she walks away after refusing. Tetsuo, who is trying all day to talk to her, loses this opportunity as well because of these two boys. On the other hand, Seiki is contemplating the fact that she is going against a student who also likes the same guy as her. Kyoko tells her that she is worried about Tetsuo seeing her as a child and wants to appear more mature in front of him. Seiki suggests she change her hairstyle a bit, but Kyoko tells her that Tetsuo likes her hairstyle because she has a similar hairstyle to him. Seiki regrets giving her advice as now she wants Tetsuo to sweet-talk her as well. Afterward, Seiki tells her that she likes Tetsuo because he is reliable and a carefree guy, whereas Kyoko likes him because of his strong biceps. Yuki is on her way home when she hears two girls gossiping about her in the bathroom. They talk about how Yuki acts arrogantly as if she is an idol. Yuki is shocked as she didn't realize what others thought of her. It is raining outside, and after saying goodbye to Hikari, Tetsuo, on his way out, realizes the sudden change in temperature. When he goes to check the cause out, he sees Yuki sitting down, looking visibly upset. After hearing the girls trash talk her in the girls' bathroom, Yuki runs towards Tetsuo's room to seek advice, but he is not in his room at the moment, which makes her sit outside his room. On his way back to his room, Tetsuo notices Yuki and asks her what is wrong. She tells him all about the girls in the restroom, and when he tries to take Yuki into his room to talk in detail, she bursts out crying, asking Tetsuo if all the mean words she receives are because of her being a demi-human. Hikari is around the corner and hears everything. Afterward, Tetsuo is sitting in the common room, working on his laptop when Seiki arrives, holding a bunch of flowers she plucked from the garden. Seiki apologizes to Tetsuo regarding her behavior and tells him that she misunderstood his intentions. After hearing him request the principal to allow Kyoko backpacks, she truly understands him. He tells her that he only asked the principal because Hikari told him to do so. And even after spending most of his time with the demi-girls, he still hasn't been able to figure out what he could do to make them feel more comfortable in society. Seiki asks Tetsuo to let her know if she could do anything to help. She goes really close to him and reassures him that she is willing to help the students. At this moment, Tetsuo is fighting World War III inside his mind just to stop creepy thoughts from emerging. Tetsuo agrees to accept help from her, which makes Seiki jump in excitement. He tells Seiki about the problems Yuki is currently facing, and she tells him that it could be due to her demi-nature, just like how Seiki's demi-nature makes her conscious about all men. Seiki offers to go and talk to Yuki about her problems as a fellow demi, and Tetsuo really appreciates her help. Later, Tetsuo sees what looks like Hikari taking Yuki somewhere with her. She takes Yuki towards the restroom where the girls were bad-mouthing her. Before going in, she tells Yuki that she will be giving them a mouthful, and it is up to her to decide what to do afterward. Hikari walks inside without hesitation and tells the girls to give it a rest, asking them if they aren't ashamed of bad-mouthing someone. She tells the two girls that she is fighting them not because she is trying to avenge her fellow Demi, but because it is a bad thing to do. She warns them not to badmouth her where she can't hear or find them. Before leaving, she tells the girls that even if someone decides to badmouth her, she will never do anything she might later regret. The girls ask her why she has gone through the trouble to do all this, and she tells them that it is because she promised her sister. After Hikari leaves, Yuki goes inside and apologizes to the girls, saying that she avoids people because she is still not comfortable with her Demi nature, and it has nothing to do with other people. The two girls end up apologizing to Yuki. The next day, Tetsuo and Seiki, along with the other 3 Demi girls, gather in a room. He tells all 3 of them that they surely go through difficult situations due to being Demis and asks them to help each other out. If they aren't confident in talking about it with their friends, they are always welcome to discuss it with Tetsuo or Seiki. Before ending the meeting, he asks if anyone has a question, and Hikari stands up and tells him that she hasn't received a hug from Tetsuo as Kyoko did. She goes ahead and hugs Tetsuo. Afterward, Kyoko hugs him as well. Seeing all the other girls hug his crush, Seiki decides to go for it as well but is stopped midway by Tetsuo, who tells her that he wants the succubus one to be in private. Yuki also gathers up the courage and gives him a hug. And while they are hugging, Tetsuo tells her that he won't force her to talk about her worries, but it is much better to talk about them than to hold and bottle them inside. Later, Hikari insists that Kyoko's body should hug Tetsuo as well. Touching the body of a mature girl for the first time in his lonely life makes him scream, and he instantly leaves, hiding his excitement. Himari is on her way home when a girl tells her about how Hikari seems to be having fun with Tetsuo. Himari still doesn't fully trust Tetsuo and finds him suspicious for wanting to be around underage girls. She runs into Tetsuo outside of school. Tetsuo breaks the ice by complimenting her and asking her about the nature of vampires. He tells her that, according to him, all the variables attached to vampires are mistaken. He tells her that vampires probably give priority to nighttime because of their sharp senses, giving them an advantage over normal humans. They hate garlic because their ability to smell is very good. This makes Tetsuo ask Himari why Hikari likes garlic despite being a vampire. Himari tells him that Hikari likes food with a strong smell, and this is her sole reason. She finally cuts all the nonsense and directly asks Tetsuo if he only talks to Hikari because he is curious about her vampire side. Tetsuo clears up the misunderstanding and tells her that both her vampire side and human side have nothing to do with it, and what makes her unique is how she decides to live her life. According to him, if someone focuses on either one of her sides, they will miss the bigger picture. Hearing him talk like a true gentleman makes Himari invite him to her house, but she quickly takes back her offer when she receives a message from Hikari telling her that she was attacked by Tetsuo, who tried to hug her. Himari gives him a mouthful and runs back home, just to find out that Hikari was actually messing with her. Yuki always wanted to hide the fact that she is a demi-human in school, but everyone finds out when she collapses in pee. Moreover, she didn't hide the fact that she is a demi before coming to this school, as her house was in a rural area. However, before starting school, the thought of leaving her middle school friends and starting a new school with completely unfamiliar surroundings makes her anxious, and even though she is having a bath in hot water, the ice starts forming. Seeing ice form in hot water makes her terrified of her abilities, and if she is able to produce ice in normal conditions, it is beyond her imagination what will happen to the people around her. This is the main reason she starts avoiding people. Hearing her story makes Tetsuo ask her about her bathing routine. Listening to an old man asking about her bathing routine made her nervous. However, what he actually means is the temperature of the water she uses. There is also a possibility of her sweat becoming ice similar to her tears. But according to Yuki, this isn't a possibility as she has never even sweated once in her whole life. Their discussion is interrupted when the bell rings, and as Yuki is about to leave, Tetsuo asks her to meet him after school. After her interview with Tetsuo, she meets up with Hikari and Kyoko invites her to eat ice cream after school, but Yuki declines her offer and goes away. Tetsuo does research about snow women all day, and after meeting up with Yuki after school, he tells her about the stories he gathers, and one of them is about a snow woman who meets up with a man. However, the man only has 2 choices. If he refuses to be her friend, she does something mean, and if he befriends her, she just disappears after a while. After finishing the story, Tetsuo notices cold air emerging from Yuki's feet and asks her if she gets cold feet when she's nervous. She agrees, and afterward, Tetsuo goes out and brings a tub of hot water. He asks her to dip her feet in the water and tells her to read all the stories he gathers. Most of them are stories about snow women being mean. One of them is about how a woman pushes a snow woman into hot water, which ends her life. The other one is about how a snowwoman freezes someone to their demise and tortures the other guy present with uncertainty. Reading all these stories makes Yuki nervous, and just as Tetsuo expects, ice starts to appear in the hot water. The reason behind the ice is Yuki's cold sweat, the sweat that appears on her body when she gets nervous, and this is transformed into ice. Tetsuo tells her that the ice appears due to how stressed she is and has nothing to do with the cold air around her. He further tells Yuki that she doesn't have to worry about the air she produces, as he is sure she is not the kind of demi that would hurt anyone. Later, she asks Tetsuo to describe her nature, and he names her nature, the crystallization of bodily fluids released under stress, but soon realizes what he just said. Tetsuo carefully secures Yuki's frozen sweat, and when asked by Yuki about what he intends to do with it, he tells her that he will be treasuring it his whole life, which makes Yuki take it back from him. Yuki's mood drastically changes after talking to Tetsuo, and she suggests going to eat ice cream with the others. While they are all eating ice cream, she tells Hikari that she appreciates Hikari controlling her clinging habit. Now, she reassures Hikari that she is alright and encourages her to feel free to hug her whenever she wants. Hikari doesn't let this offer go to waste and instantly hugs her, but gets greedy and asks Yuki if she can bite her, as well as her inner vampire thoughts are running wild. Yuki allows her, and she softly bites Yuki's shoulders. Even though the snow woman of the past had bad experiences, Tetsuo is sure that the snow woman of recent times will be able to live a more peaceful life. The next day, all three of them are having lunch on the rooftop. Tetsuo goes and starts talking to them. Yuki suddenly realizes something and asks Tetsuo why he only calls Hikari by her first name but calls Kyoko and Yuki by their last names. He tells them that it is because of her twin Himari. Upon Yuki's suggestion, Tetsuo tries calling Kyoko by her first name, but hearing him say her name makes her delighted, and she asks Tetsuo to stick with her first name. It is now time for the PE period, and they all leave. On their way to the PE class, Yusuke stops Hikari and tells her to give him a nickname as well, but his confidence hits rock bottom when she asks what his name is. He is down in the dumps after getting shot down by Hikari. However, Yuki moves towards him and thanks him for taking care of her when he fainted in the PE class. She also apologizes for rejecting his offer to hang out and invites him to karaoke after school. Yusuke thinks that a cute snow girl is hitting on his ugly self and gets all excited just to find out that it is not a date but a friendly hangout plan, as all her friends are present with her. Later, Tetsuo was visiting Hikari's house. Her father had invited Tetsuo to talk about Hikari and thank him for always taking care of his daughter. He told him that he was a stay-at-home dad, as he and his wife had decided that one of the parents should stay by Hikari's side. He also told him that he was in contact with Yuki's and Kyoko's parents. Their conversation was interrupted by Himari, who just arrived home. She instantly apologized to Tetsuo for her misunderstanding regarding the hug. Tetsuo quickly switched the topic, as he didn't want the dad to know that he had been going around hugging his daughter. Later, Hikari also arrived and was surprised to see Tetsuo at her home. She was busy taking photos of Tetsuo when Himari shouted at her for putting blood inside the fridge. Himari told her that she should be putting her blood inside her own fridge that he had in her room. Hikari tried asking Tetsuo to help her avoid this sticky situation, but Himari started telling Tetsuo about Hikari's bad habits, about how she hides desserts in her fridge and puts her legs and even her head inside it when it's hot outside. Hikari tried threatening Himari and told her not to embarrass her, which made Himari make fun and mess up her hairstyle. Tetsuo intervened and called her hairstyle cute in order to stop the fight, but Hikari ended up blushing because of his compliment. Seeing the old man make his daughter blush makes him suspicious, but he lets it go and offers Tetsuo to stay for dinner. Their father goes to cook food for the three of them when unexpectedly, their mother arrives. She thanks Tetsuo for always taking care of her daughters. Afterward, they all have dinner, and another fight breaks out after dinner as Hikari apparently steals and eats Himari's ice cream. After confirming that Hikari has indeed eaten her ice cream, Hikari offers to go to the convenience store to buy her a new one, and her mom goes along with her. Tetsuo asks Himari why their father has lighter colored hair, and she tells him that he colors his hair light to make Hikari feel more at home, which makes Tetsuo realize that Himari has also lightened her hair to support her older sister. The next day, Hikari asks Himari to help her with her hair, but she refuses and tells Tetsuo that she is doing it to make her older sister more dependent. Tetsuo mentions the fact that he hears somewhere about vampires having the inability to look at themselves in the mirror. This makes Himari scared, as she thinks that she might do something horrible to her older sister and goes looking for her. She searches every corner of the school until she finds her. However, vampires not seeing themselves in the mirror turn out to be just a myth. Hikari shows her reflection to Himari in the mirror and compliments her for being such a kind-hearted and caring little sister. Later, it rains outside, and Hikari decides to head home as he has an umbrella, but Kyoko has to stay and wait for the rain to stop. On the other hand, as Tetsuo and Seiki walk together, she mentions that she plans to stay late to catch the last train, steering clear of any potential unwanted crowds on her way home. Before parting ways, she tried doing a little experiment and acted a little romantic towards Tetsuo. Tetsuo didn't react much to her moves, which made her believe that it was possible for her to have a relationship with Tetsuo. But little did she know that Tetsuo was hanging by a hair's breadth. He went to his room and found Kyoko sleeping on the couch. After putting a blanket on her body and after removing all the creepy thoughts in his mind, he sits on his table but soon gets sleepy and passes out on his table. After a while, Kyoko wakes up and sees her crush sleeping right in front of her. She gathers up the courage and goes towards Tetsuo, who is sound asleep, and starts to pat his head, treating him like a little boy. However, poor Tetsuo is awake the whole time and experiences the whole thing. She then puts a blanket on his body and starts to go through his hair. His 7 minutes in heaven come to an end when Hikari's father visits Tetsuo's room. Apparently, he is here to pick Kyoko up from school as her own mother and father are busy. Even though her father tells Hikari to inform Kyoko about it beforehand, she purposely hides it from Kyoko so she could have some alone time with the old guy. Kyoko thanks Hikari's father for going through the trouble. He tells Kyoko to write a note telling Tetsuo about how she left, but her bag is still in her classroom. Hikari's father grabs her hand and goes to grab her stuff, whereas her body stays in Tetsuo's room. Her body finds a notepad lying in his office and writes a note thanking Tetsuo for letting her sleep in his room. He is impressed by how well she is able to write even without looking at the paper. This makes him grasp the fact that all the demi-humans are working hard in their own ways to fit into society. Seiki walks down the hallway when she runs into a boy who is crying. The boy introduces himself as Kurz. Kurz is a German who is visiting the school campus. He tells Seiki that he is visiting it with his parents, which is visibly a lie. Kurz sees Kyoko and Yuki and is surprised to see demi-humans on the campus. Seiki gets anxious and tries to use her ability to make Kurz talk, but quickly comes to her senses. Seiki is about to leave and go look for his parents when suddenly Kurz grabs her hands to stop her. Surprisingly, her succubus abilities don't have an effect on him. Tetsuo also arrives and tells them about the suspicious figure Hikari has seen inside the school. Kurz sees that Seiki is scared, and to gain her trust, he tells both of them that he will take care of that suspicious figure. Consequently, a person walks towards them, and without waiting to get a better look at them, Kurz kicks him in the face and ultimately restrains him. He acts all cool just to later find out it is someone both Seiki and Kurz personally know. That person is a police detective, and Kurz was his junior. He scolds Kurz and introduces him as someone who works for him. Tetsuo asks both of them if they have checked in before strolling the school halls. Seiki gives Yugaki slippers to wear inside the school. The reason he comes to school is that he has heard about the 4 demi-humans and thinks of giving them a visit, considering his line of work, whereas Kurz is trying his very best not to reveal that their work includes demi-humans. Yugaki asks Seiki how life is and starts telling her about work while putting a cigarette in his mouth. Seiki takes the cigarette from his hands and tells him that smoking is only allowed in the smoking room. Afterward, Yugaki tells Seiki that she is a grown adult, and it is time for her to finally look for a man and start her own family. Yugaki tells her that he is worried about her as he has known her since she was little. Yugaki is shocked to hear that the succubus has someone she likes. He starts making fun of her, and Seiki threatens to use her abilities on him, which makes him stop as his old body can't handle the excitement. Seiki tells him that Tetsuo doesn't have a reaction to her abilities, which makes him a good fit. Yugaki corrects her misunderstanding and tells her that her ability has an effect on every man, and he is just doing a great job of hiding his reaction. He asks Seiki if she still likes him after finding this out. This fact gets Seiki even more thrilled as she knows that her crush gets excited by her presence. On the other hand, Hikari is still exaggerating about the bear-like creature she saw in school when they suddenly run into Kurz. He introduces himself to them and walks away after making a lie about transferring to their school, which Yuki finds highly suspicious. After walking away, Kurz runs into Yusuke glaring at an inappropriate picture of Seiki. Kurz takes their phone away from them and asks them if they aren't ashamed of doing such things. Kurz asks him if he only took the photo of Seiki because she is a succubus. However, Yusuke, being a cultured guy through and through, tells him that it doesn't matter even if she isn't a succubus. He only took the photo because he thought Seiki was a cute girl. Kurz gives him the phone back after hearing it and asks Yusuke to send him that picture. Kurz goes looking for Yugaki, but he is nowhere to be found. Apparently, he is sitting in the smoking room. Tetsuo also arrives and starts smoking a cigarette as well. He tells Yugaki that he used to smoke once in a while. Tetsuo asks Yugaki about his work, and he tells him that both he and Kurz work at the demi-human division in the police. Yugaki has little to no work these days, but it was way different in the past. Work was tough as humans were very harsh towards demi-humans, and due to enduring all the physical and mental pain, a lot of demi-humans caused trouble. However, it is different in the current times because the whole society, including the government and different departments, has taken the issue under control. Even when he has heard a lot of rumors about the 4 demi-humans in this school, he is surprised to see them talking and laughing together. He thanks Tetsuo as well for his contribution. Yugaki further discusses how most of the demi-human incidents involve succubus and their abilities. A lot of complaints about people troubling succubus appear, but it is always hard to find out if the succubus has used her abilities to make it happen or if the other person is at fault. The only thing the police department can do to make sure it doesn't happen is to have an appropriate relationship with the succubus in advance to find out if they are evil or not. Before leaving, Yugaki asks Tetsuo to take care of Seiki and promises to make this world a place where demi-humans feel secure. Later, they go out of the smoking room and talk about how getting hated by a demi-human with powers is way worse than getting hated by a normal girl. Their discussion is interrupted by Hikari, who comes to talk to Tetsuo but gets in a jolly mood when Yugaki calls her a little lady. She goes running after telling both Yugaki and Tetsuo that they smell of cigarettes. Later, Yugaki leaves the school with Kurz, and while driving his car, he tells Yugaki that he goes to meet the demi occasionally, but there is no need to worry about the demi-humans at that school. He is in a motivational speaker mood and is giving him a lecture only to find out that Kurz is totally ignoring him and enjoying his takoyaki. Later, exam scoreboards are up, and Yuki and Hikari went to check on them. Hikari was super proud of her little sister who ranked second on the list. But soon they found something even more surprising. Kyoko was ranked 5th. Hikari was shocked after seeing Kyoko's result, as she always had thought that she was a dumb loser like her. Tetsuo appeared and complimented Yuki. He also told her that she could do better if she tried hard enough. However, Tetsuo was quite disappointed in Hikari and told her to study hard instead of getting jealous of her friend's scores. Seeing Tetsuo upset at Hikari's result made her think that Tetsuo might end up hating her and asked Yuki to help her study. Afterward, Yuki went to her class, and when she went through her bag, she found out that she was missing something very important. It was her comic, and coincidentally, Seiki found it in the hallway. Fortunately, Yuki was able to arrive at the right moment. Seiki comforted Yuki by telling her that even though manga was banned in school, she would be willing to keep it a secret. Seiki asked Yuki if she really liked manga, but she ended up making an excuse about how her parents had a lot of manga and they didn't interest her. The manga was about a guy who gave codes to his targets and arrived at the scene right after they were able to crack those codes. Later, they talked about a manga related to a snow woman getting famous, and Seiki asked if she was getting trouble in class because of it. She assured Seiki that everything was fine, and Seiki told her about a story from her childhood when everyone in her school had found out that she was a succubus. A boy approached her and tried to make a move, but Seiki was an expert in judo and flipped him over before he even got a chance. Making physical touch with Seiki made the boy express weird desires, making everyone in school avoid him. Later that day, all 3 of them were studying together in the library. Hikari kept asking Kyoko different questions and disturbing her, which made Yuki tell Hikari that she was being a nuisance. However, Kyoko tells Yuki that helping others is also a good way to study, and she is not bothered at all. Hikari asks her if she studies this much because her parents force her to do so. She tells them that her father used to force her, but now she studies hard because she enjoys it, which makes a loser like Hikari contemplate how someone can enjoy studying. Yuki asks Hikari if she is studying hard to get complimented by Tetsuo, which gives Kyoko an idea to rank first next time in order to receive a compliment from him as well. Later, Hikari is chilling in Tetsuo's room when he asks her if she has a personal preference for chewing an arm or if she has a favorite type of arm to chew. This question gives rise to the first ever Arm I Want to Bite championship, and the contestants are Tetsuo, Yuki, and Kyoko. The purpose of this championship is for Hikari to find the best arm to chew on. The contest starts with Hikari examining Kyoko's arm. According to Hikari, her arms are smooth and muscular and are good to chew on, but she ends up cutting a lot of points due to her non-existent neck. Kyoko gets a total of 65 points. Next up, it is Yuki's turn. Hikari really likes the feel and touch of Yuki's arms. Her smooth and soft arms, along with their coolness due to her being a snowwoman, make them Hikari's favorites. Yuki ends up getting 93 points. Yuki asks Hikari what it is like to chew on Himari's arm, and as she has been chewing on them since they were kids, it doesn't have a particular flavor and is more like something Hikari needs in her mouth when it feels lonely. Finally, it is Tetsuo's turn. His arms are hard and too thick for Hikari to chew on. However, the most problematic thing is Tetsuo's hair getting stuck in between her teeth. Tetsuo tells her never to say that in public as people might get suspicious. Hikari gets her revenge on Tetsuo as she ends up failing Tetsuo. The winner of the championship is Yuki, and this makes Tetsuo realize the myths he has heard about snowwomen having the ability to riz others as well. Tetsuo asks Hikari if she has ever thought of chewing on Seiki's arms. Even though Seiki is a succubus, her abilities have no effect on girls, and Hikari thinks of them as normal arms. Tetsuo starts to contemplate how Hikari has given each arm a particular taste, and considering that vampire bloodsucking has some creep aspects involved. If she were to touch Seiki directly and chew on her arm while she is being affected by her succubus abilities, Seiki would end up tasting the best. Hearing their teacher talk about how a girl tastes good makes all three of them startled. They corner Tetsuo and tell him what a creep he is. A few days later, the scoreboard of their next exams is up, and this time, Hikari ends up getting grades that are enough to satisfy Tetsuo. He compliments her, and she happily goes to look at the other names on the scoreboard. Hikari finds out that Yuki ends up improving and gets the 27th position while her sister drops and places 3rd. Nevertheless, the most surprising feat for Hikari is seeing her friend Kyoko on the top of the scoreboard, and she goes running telling Kyoko how she has betrayed her. Seiki is drunk as hell and is having the time of her life with the bear whom she has named Tetsuo. She was doing questionable things with the poor bear when suddenly she receives a call from Yugaki. He has finally figured it out. Yugaki knows the person she is interested in is Tetsuo. He motivates Seiki to go for it and show her true colors. The reason she has not been able to make a move on Tetsuo is because of her succubus abilities, and she doesn't want to manipulate him using her abilities. However, according to Yugaki, it is the perfect time to let her inner succubus run wild. As this is the first time a man has won her heart, Yugaki advises her to make use of her abilities, as she would have to get used to them one way or another. He even tells Seiki that she needs to make a move, or another hot girl might take that loner away from her, and tells her to try and riz Tetsuo. The next day, Seiki visits Tetsuo's room and brings biscuits as a present. She tells Tetsuo that she is here to discuss her succubus abilities, which makes Tetsuo excited. Seiki tells him that it is the best learning experience to test things out. And without hearing a word Tetsuo says, she starts to take off her jacket, making her ability more prevalent. Tetsuo, as usual, has a bland reaction but is dying from the inside and is trying his best to not look at her body. Tetsuo advises Seiki to dress up a little, as wearing trainers every day must be suffocating for her. Hearing him say that makes Seiki ask him if someone could ever have real feelings of affection towards a succubus. Tetsuo begins to explain what he has researched on the succubus topic. According to him, even normal women could max out their appeal by taking off their clothes, and the same goes with succubus. However, their ability just makes them a little more appealing than a normal girl. In summary, Tetsuo says that she is not all too different from a normal girl, and succubus could experience true feelings from the opposite gender as well. This statement makes her very happy, and she adds some of her experiences to it as well. This conversation makes her realize that she doesn't want to use her powers on Tetsuo and wants to take things slow to make sure everything he feels for her is real. As she is about to leave, Seiki tries zipping up her jacket, but her huge talons get stuck in the zipper. Tetsuo sees that and goes as red as a tomato. He is trying his best to hide his embarrassment, which makes Seiki really happy. The next day, she finds herself daydreaming at her desk, contemplating ways to meet Tetsuo again. Unfortunately, Yuki overhears everything and questions her about her fantasies. Seiki is able to make an excuse, and later they both exchange manga with each other as if they are part of a mafia deal. Yuki goes to Tetsuo and tells him that she wants to control her abilities and not make others worry about her overheating. He brings a water tub and tells Yuki to act as if she is sad because the snow woman can only generate cold air when they are depressed. She starts to act depressed, which makes Tetsuo laugh, but he controls it. Seeing her try this hard makes Tetsuo perceive that there must be something that makes the air around her cooler and freezes her tears as soon as they leave her body. And the same theory could be applied to Seiki. The depressing act doesn't work, but the ice forms in the tub due to her embarrassment. Later, Hikari and Kyoko, alongside Yuki, dip their feet in the tub filled with ice. The next class is PE. All three of them are running and exercising. After being done with the PE class, they all go to Tetsuo's room to chill out in the cold air conditioner. Tetsuo tells them not to hang out in his room all the time and keep things moderate, but Hikari tells him that it is hard for a vampire to bear the heat. Yuki tells Tetsuo that it is hard for a snowman as well, and the two of them start comparing who is in the worst situation. Later, Tetsuo goes to grab popsicles for them while the three of them think about ideas to make them feel even cooler. Yuki's acting is out of the question as she is too embarrassed to continue. Hikari and Yuki tell Kyoko to tell them ghost stories and send a chill down their spine. Her story starts with two girls exploring a dark cave and finding a note about a person confessing his crimes. He writes about headless corpses up ahead. The girls continue to explore even further and stumble upon a headless body, and Kyoko uses her head to mimic the movement of the head in the story. Her acting makes the two of them die of laughter, as the ghost stories don't work. They are thinking of similar ideas when Hikari asks Kyoko about the vest she is wearing. Kyoko tells them that even though it's hard to wear a vest in summer, she sweats a lot, and the sweat makes her inner clothing visible. She lifts up her shirt and shows them what she means. Looking at her body makes the other two shocked. And Tetsuo, upon return, finds the two frozen in their places. All three of them are sitting in the cafeteria along with Seiki. And Hikari tells them that she has kissed someone. All of them are surprised and ask her to elaborate. The person she names is Tetsuo, which makes Seiki spill her drink. However, everyone calms down when she tells them that it was only a kiss on the cheek. Seiki stays quiet the whole time but later goes to the bathroom and shows her frustration. Kyoko, even at home, is thinking about how Hikari has kissed Tetsuo and wants to kiss him herself as well. The vice principal of the school makes Tetsuo carry huge boxes, and looking at him work hard for the school makes the principal compliment his dedication and appreciate him for taking the time to look out for the demi-humans at school. However, it seems like the vice principal is still not a very big fan of his. On his way, Tetsuo runs into Kyoko, who starts to follow him. She is acting weirdly, putting her head on his head's level. Seeing a headless girl follow him terrifies Tetsuo. She doesn't stop and keeps on trying to get closer to him when suddenly her head slips from her hands. The head is in the air, and Tetsuo jumps to catch it, throwing the boxes he was carrying. However, Kyoko is able to catch it herself as she has quite a lot of practice, and Tetsuo just looked like a loser who can't even handle basic box delivery. This incident makes Tetsuo angry, and he scolds Kyoko for not taking enough care of herself. Kyoko runs away as this is the first time Tetsuo has scolded her this badly. She sits alone in the dark hallway and bawls her eyes out until Hikari and Yuki come to comfort her. They ask her about what happened, and she tells them about how she made such a nice person angry enough to yell at her. Hikari goes somewhere for a second while Yuki stays and comforts Kyoko, telling her how Tetsuo helped her overcome her fear and become better friends with these two. Hikari comes back and brings Tetsuo along with her. She takes Kyoko's head and brings it close to Tetsuo. Tetsuo apologizes for shouting at her. He then takes her head and hugs her, when suddenly she starts making weird noises. Apparently, Hikari is tickling her body, and Tetsuo scolds Hikari for being naughty. Later, he asks Kyoko what she wanted to say to him when the incident happened, and they all just start nervously laughing without saying anything. The next day, Kyoko goes to Tetsuo's room and asks him if he wants to examine her body, and he excitedly agrees. He was an expert in biology, so he took Kyoko to his college to meet up with an old friend who had expertise in the field, which might help them better understand her condition. His friend's name is Sama, who is in fact a weirdo, and his expressions never change. They both greeted each other, and then he introduced himself to Kyoko, telling her that he majored in physics. Afterward, they started to study her body, and the first interesting thing to study was how food from her mouth teleported into her body automatically. This made Salma think that there might be a wormhole connected from her head to her body. According to him, her neck was the wormhole, which not only teleported the food but also connected all the nerves and veins with her head. The most possible theory they could come up with was that Kyoko's neck existed in another dimension, as she had it once examined by a doctor who confirmed the existence of her neck. Her neck was enclosed by skin, but from the outside view, it looked like the passage was blocked. Salma thought hard for a while and told them that human observation had an effect on the phenomenon in this world. And in other words, human intention controlled the phenomenon of the world. He then observed the flame coming out from her body, and according to Salma, it was not just a flame but a fluctuation in space caused by her existence. In the end, he told them both that Dullahan had the potential for physics, and they could learn a lot from how Dullahan exists. After finishing the study, Kyoko asked Tetsuo how they became friends, and he told her that they had sat together once and had been friends since then. Tetsuo told Salma that he still hasn't changed and is still a romanticist. Salma also told Tetsuo that he was the same as ever, and his muscles only grew bigger. Kyoko went away for a while to contemplate everything that she had learned today and thought that it was not right to aimlessly accept that she was a Dullahan. If it was difficult for others to research her due to pressure from society, she had an idea to become a researcher and research herself. Salma told Tetsuo that if they researched enough, it was possible for Kyoko to become a normal human being as well, which made Tetsuo imagine how she would look if Kyoko was a normal human instead of a Dullahan. Her height would have made her look like Hikari and Yuki's senior, but Tetsuo stopped thinking when cultured thoughts started to emerge. It is the summer season, and all three of them are cooling down in Tetsuo's room. As it is hard for Yuki and Hikari in the summer season, Tetsuo wants to find out ways that might make summer a little easier for them. They all plan to research this topic on Saturday. Yusuke comes to ask Tetsuo to be a goalkeeper for their team as they are short on players. He declines the offer and tells them that he is busy helping the demi-humans pass the summer in comfort. He tells him that he is the only teacher in the school the demi-humans are comfortable talking to about their bodies and abilities. Suddenly, the vice principal arrives and agrees with what Yusuke had said. However, he further tells him that he has been contributing way more towards demi-humans than he should be, and it has made it difficult for them to talk to any other teacher about their problems. The vice principal was jealous that he is getting all the demi-girls for himself and tells him that he should be treating his other students the same way he treats demi-humans. Before leaving, he tells him that having only one teacher to rely on is not good for the demi-humans, as if he were to ever leave, they wouldn't have anyone to talk to. Shizuka, Atsumi, Junichi, and Yusuke are sitting at the table discussing what the vice principal had said to Tetsuo. They all try to talk about stuff that might help the demi-humans and eventually make them reliable enough that the demis could take advice from them as well. Atsumi asks everyone if demi-humans should be treated the same way normal human beings are treated. The statement puts everyone on edge, but what Atsumi really means by it is that it is discrimination towards them if the normal people start neglecting their different attributes and start to treat them like normal human beings. The reason all the demi-humans feel at ease when talking about their bodies with Tetsuo is that he truly understands their bodies and wants to find out more about them. That is the reason they don't seek advice from someone else, as the other people are not knowledgeable enough about demis. Tetsuo is still thinking about what the vice principal said to him when all three demi-humans come to him and ask about their sad plans. He avoids them and goes into his room. This weird behavior makes all the girls think about what happened and if he has gotten tired of them. Hikari comforts them by saying that she made sure a few days ago, and he is still as enthusiastic as ever about researching demi-humans. The only possible thing they could think of is intervention from a different teacher. Hikari goes looking for Seiki and wants to ask her for advice. She goes to the teacher's room where the vice principal is present, and he tells her that Seiki is present on the ground. Hikari runs into Yusuke and the others, and he ends up telling her everything that has happened to Tetsuo. Afterward, Hikari tells Seiki and the other girls. All the girls seem down after hearing about it, but Seiki comforts them and tells them that they should be grateful for what Tetsuo has done for them, and the vice principal might have a reason that he said all those things. In the end, they come up with an idea to make Tetsuo feel better. On the other hand, Tetsuo is sitting alone on the beach, acting like a sad movie protagonist. He is thinking about how at the start he only wanted to learn more about them, but as time goes by, he found out about their problems and wanted to help them out. He thinks that maybe it is best for him to step back and let them live their lives. Unexpectedly, a video pops up on his phone, and it is actually the demi-humans from his school. First up is Yuki, who sits in front of the camera. She tells him all the problems he has helped her through and how he has helped her become better friends with Kyoko and Hikari. All in all, she thanks him for doing everything he has done for them. After Yuki, Kyoko comes. She also starts off by showing her gratitude towards his actions and tells him that he is the only teacher who has approached her and talked about her problems. She tells him that she is sure that even if they were not demi-humans, he would have treated them the same way and, in the end, asks him to always look out for them. Next, it is Seiki's turn. She also thanks him for all his hard work and tells him that she can rely on him as both a teacher and a succubus. However, this feels way too formal, and she decides to let go a little and tells him that even though she is a rookie and his junior, she is always ready to listen to his problems and he is allowed to come talk to her whenever he desires. Before ending the video, she invites him to go out for drinks. Even though Hikari is not in the video, she comes to the beach where Tetsuo is sitting and sits next to him. Tetsuo thanks her for making that video and tells her that it made him very happy. He apologizes for going too far with them, but Hikari tells him that he can never go too far in helping others. She thanks him for always looking out for them and shouts while looking at the ocean that she wants to pay him back for everything he has done for them. The next day, Tetsuo goes to talk to the vice principal about the demi-humans issue, but before he can talk, the vice principal tells him that he should forget what he had told him earlier and continue looking out for the demi-humans like he always has been. He tells Tetsuo that there are students who get inspired by his actions, and his efforts don't go to waste. He realizes that he was wrong for stepping back, and this incident gives him the confidence and the motivation to further research and study demi-humans. A nightmare about a vampire attacking wakes Tetsuo up, and he finds Hikari in front of him. She is in his room to ask him a question about why her eyes always shine at nighttime in pictures. He tells her that it's the same ability as nocturnal animals. These sorts of animals have a mirror-like layer at the back of their eyes which helps them see better at nighttime. He tells Hikari that the same could be true for her eyes, helping her see better in the dark compared to normal human beings. He advises her to be careful not to damage her eyes or get sunburned. Afterward, he tells her about the dream he had in which a vampire attacked him, making him think that vampires most probably used to have a tendency to attack at night due to various benefits. However, modern vampires most probably had to control this tendency because of other humans. Hikari thanks him for being concerned but also corrects him by saying that modern vampires have no difficulty hunting. She starts doing silly tricks, and Tetsuo stops her by telling her that he can see her undies, making her embarrassed beyond measure. To take revenge, Hikari requests Tetsuo to do something embarrassing, and he acts like a clumsy vampire for her. Afterwards, Hikari asks him if they can use the school's swimming pool on Saturday, and he tells her that they are only allowed to use it if a teacher is present with them. Tetsuo is leaving for home when Himari comes running and questions him about seeing her sister's undies. After clearing the misunderstanding, he asks Himari if it's okay for Hikari to swim in the pool on a hot day, and she's alright with it. At nighttime, Seiki is still embarrassed about asking Tetsuo out for drinks and is telling Yugaki everything. But as it's 4 in the morning, he cuts the call and goes to sleep. The next day, she makes up her mind and goes to see Tetsuo, but he ends up asking her if she's free this Saturday. She gets excited, thinking that he's asking her out, but later finds out it's so she can look after the girls. It's Saturday, and all the girls are enjoying themselves in the pool. After giving Seiki the keys, Tetsuo is about to leave, but Seiki stops him and tells him to stay for a little longer. He tells Seiki that the reason he asked her to come was so she could enjoy herself and swim with the other girls. As there are no boys, she won't have to worry about her succubus abilities. She tells him that he should stay as her abilities don't have that much of an effect on him. Afterward, she takes off her jacket and shows her swimsuit to Tetsuo. Tetsuo, who has seen a girl in a swimsuit for the first time in his miserable life, freezes from excitement. After some time, Seiki randomly asks Tetsuo what he would do if a student were to confess her love to him. He tells her that he wouldn't be able to return her feelings as she would be his student. This makes Seiki a little relieved as she is neither a child nor his student. Seiki joins the other girls in the pool while Tetsuo goes and sits next to Kyoko's head. He is impressed by Kyoko's skills and how she can control her body in the pool from the outside, even though it feels like watching TV to her. Later, they talk about how Dullahan is perceived by the world and how Dullahan is mostly associated with an image of a knight. The most possible reason is that maybe Dullahan, who was a knight, had accomplished something great in the past, and that's why all of them are associated with knights. Tetsuo further talks about how it must be scary for Dullahan to cross the river or go inside water bodies, as if they were to drop their heads, there is no coming back. As they are discussing, Hikari comes and asks how come Kyoko has never seen the view underwater and tries to persuade her to try. Her persuasion skills work and Tetsuo takes permission from Kyoko's father and jumps inside the pool to make Kyoko's wish come true. Seeing his muscular body makes even the succubus faint. Afterward, he takes Kyoko's head and dips it underwater for a few seconds. She sees the view underwater for the first time in her life and thinks that it's very beautiful. Shizuka and Atsumi also join them, and they all play to their heart's content. Before leaving, Tetsuo realizes that Hikari ended up getting sunburned and gets concerned. However, she comforts him and tells him that she'd be alright in a day or two. Hikari thanks him for letting them use the pool and leaves. The next day, she arrives at school and realizes that Tetsuo is standing at the exact spot where they had met for the first time. However, this time he has a list in his hand. She reminisces about when they had first met and all that happened after that. She tries walking past Tetsuo, but he realizes her tactics and stops her. He makes her write her name on the list of students who are late, and even though she tries her best to get away, she ends up writing it down. Summer break starts, and Seiki and Tetsuo are on duty on the campus. Seiki realizes that only teachers are present in the school at the moment, which makes her mind go wild. She imagines asking Tetsuo out for dinner, and he agrees to her proposal. Her delusions also include having dinner with Tetsuo in a 5-star restaurant. However, she quickly comes back to Earth when Tetsuo asks her if she has plans tomorrow. She thinks that maybe her dreams are becoming reality, but Tetsuo only asks Seiki because he wants her to help him with patrol in the summer festival. On the other hand, Himari is helping Hikari wear a yukata. A horror movie plays on the TV in their background, and while helping Hikari, a ghost appears in the movie, scaring the living hell out of Himari. She can't control herself and ends up squeezing Hikari as tight as a lemon. They have to turn off the TV as Himari is such a chicken. Seiki ends up agreeing to Tetsuo's proposal and comes to the summer festival. However, upon arrival, she realizes how big of a mistake it is since wearing a yukata and roaming around the festival feels overwhelming. She goes insane thinking about what to do when a mascot arrives near, giving her the perfect idea to wear a fully covered suit, which might help her hide her succubus abilities. Hikari is on her way to the summer festival and meets Kyoko and Yuki on her way. They all compliment each other's yukatas and go towards the festival, whereas Himari goes to the festival with Shizuka and Atsumi. It is the first time Hikari has gone to the festival without Himari, as she always used to go with her sister, which kind of makes Himari glad as she is a powerhouse, always causing trouble and embarrassing Himari as well. However, as soon as they start playing games, Himari is nothing less than her sister and gets as excited as Hikari. Tetsuo also arrives at the festival and runs into Yusuke. They greet each other, and after exchanging a few words, Yusuke leaves. Tetsuo notices a weird-looking mascot bear staring at him intensely. The bear cannot say anything and is soon attacked by the little kids looking to mess it up. On the other hand, Hikari is playing the water balloon game. No matter how hard she tries, she always loses. Her losing streak is stopped by Yuki, who comes to save Hikari and takes out several water balloons, shocking everyone, including the shop owner who has gone broke. She tells the others that her grandpa has taught her about this game, and that is why she is so skilled. The three of them decide to look for Tetsuo as they want to show him their yukatas. Tetsuo, who is sitting in a corner, sees the bear mascot once again getting teased by a couple of kids. However, coincidentally, Yugaki runs into Tetsuo. They start to talk, and Tetsuo asks him about Kurs, but he is busy raiding takoyaki at different stalls, becoming a nuisance for all the other buyers. The bear starts running from the kids and ends up falling on the ground. Its head comes out, revealing the one and only Seiki. Seiki tells the two of them that she is only wearing the suit to stop her succubus ability. Tetsuo compliments her for going this far for mere patrolling duty, but little does he know what her real intentions are. Yugaki invites Tetsuo to smoke a few cigarettes, and he promises to join him after making a few more rounds. Seiki tells him that she will be joining him and helping him with his rounds. She tells Tetsuo that it is hard for her to see through the bear mascot and asks him to hold her hands throughout the rounds. Her lame plan somehow works as Tetsuo agrees to do so. Yusuke has Junichi bribe Himari and the others by buying them cotton candy and requests to hang out with them, while Hikari and the others are having shaved ice cream. They find out that Yuki never has a brain freeze due to her unique abilities. They talk about the upcoming fireworks event, and later, Hikari tells them about the forest behind the shrine, which looks creepy and might have a few ghosts dwelling around. All three of them get excited and decide to go ghost hunting. Yugaki and Tetsuo are having their smoking break and discussing succubus. He tells Tetsuo that even when Seiki is wearing the bear mascot, she still doesn't let loose and is controlling her succubus abilities. Yusuke and the others also decide to explore the forest behind the shrine, and Himari is absolutely terrified. However, in order to look cool and brave in front of her friends, she decides to tag along. Seiki changes into the yukata she brought and goes to the forest as well, looking for Tetsuo. Both groups are excitedly exploring the dark and mysterious forest when Himari suddenly screams as she has seen a spirit behind her. Hikari hears her scream and decides to go towards her, and Kyoko follows, leaving Yuki behind. Seiki ends up meeting Tetsuo, who is trying his best to control himself after seeing her in yukata. Himari and the others start to feel cold air surrounding them, but it is actually coming from Yuki, who is scared as the others have left her behind. Yusuke goes to check it out and accidentally shines a bright flashlight right into Hikari's eyes, making them glow. This scares the whole group, and they run away instantly. Hikari and the others become quite sure that ghosts don't exist when suddenly a giant figure emerges from nowhere. All of them get terrified and start throwing water balloons at him, only to later find out that the giant figure is actually Tetsuo. They all get scolded by Seiki and Tetsuo, and while they are lecturing the girls, the firework event starts, and they all leave whatever they were doing and enjoy the beautiful fireworks. It is the first time Kyoko and Hikari have seen fireworks, and they are quite excited to see them. After getting a peek at Seiki and her yukata, Tetsuo, being a cultured man, finds himself on edge. They all enjoy the summer festival and agree that summer was great. Thanks for watching till this long, my fellow men of culture. Don't forget to tell us about your favorite waifu from this anime and subscribe to the channel for more content.